So in today's video, I wanted to talk about 5 different ways that you can practice scales. Scales are something that as a guitar teacher, and of course as a professional guitarist myself, I've spent a lot of time practicing, a lot of time thinking about how to best practice, and something that I've seen a lot of students struggle with and also get stuck in. So I'm going to go through 5 levels. They aren't necessarily in the order that you should practice them, but just to give you some ideas on how they would work. For today's video, I'm going to use the G major scale in what I would call the first position, so it looks like this. Throughout the video, on each level, I'll be zooming in on my left hand so that you can hopefully follow along, but if you need diagrams for this scale, you can find them for download for free from my website, which is linked down in the description below. So, with a lot of my students, what I see is we get kind of into this thing where we're constantly practicing our scales and we want to make them faster, but we only practice them in perfect linear order. And what I mean by that is and none of our favorite guitarists, when they solo, just play scales in perfect linear order. However, linear order is going to be the first step of our scale. So if I was going to practice the G major scale in linear order, it would look and sound something like this. Now, if I were looking to kind of break out of that, train my fingers some new patterns, and also get it into a musical kind of sound that maybe our favorite guitarist might actually use in a solo, I would practice the scale in thirds. Now, what does that mean? Practicing a scale in thirds mean that you're basically skipping every second note. So what I'm going to do is I would go G, B, then A, C. So third, third, that's a third, third, third. But basically you're playing, you play the note of the scale, then the third, note of the scale, then the third, and you keep going throughout. So here, nice and slow so that you can hopefully piece this together, is the scale in thirds. So there is the G major scale in thirds. Now, kind of piggybacking off of this, if you get super comfortable doing it in thirds, you could also do the scale in different intervals, like say fifths, where you do the same thing, but now rather than playing a note and then the third, you play a note and then the fifth. Sorry. So on and so forth. So basically this level could be thought of as intervals, but again, the most musically common would be thirds. And you've heard people do lines like stuff like that all the time, where that was a really quick run in thirds, or where again, I'm kind of riffing on it at the end, but I'm playing the scale in thirds. Now, the next step would be playing the scale in triads. Now there's 2 kinds of common ways to do this. The first kind of way I would go about this is just doing straight triads up. So if we were in the key of G major, I would play G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished, and then it repeats. And you can do this staying totally in position. So if that didn't make any sense, let me run through that really quick. So here I'm just going straight ascending arpeggios, and then on the way down it will be descending arpeggios. So we would have sorry. And again, when you actually practice that, I would try to keep them in consistent eighth notes. I did those in kind of 3-note groupings just so that it was easy to follow, but in practice it would ideally sound like... so on and so forth, where you don't have those gaps. Now the other way to practice this in triads would be to do cascading. And what that is you do one arpeggio up and then the next one down. So that would sound like this. So there is 2 ways to practice playing the scale in triads. Now the next logical step here would be to go to 7th chord arpeggios. So to make a 7th chord, all you do is you add one more third to your triad. So rather than, you would end up with all the way up to that F sharp. So it would be G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D dominant 7, E minor 7, F sharp half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, and then back to G major 7. And then these 2 orders stay the same. So ascending, that would sound like this. Sorry. Then, if you were to do it cascading, you would get something like this. Then and now finally level 5, which this actually isn't necessarily the trickiest of all of the ones that I've done, but it would be practicing things in sequences. So one of my favorite sequences to run is running in 4-note sequences. So what you do is you play 4 notes from the start of the scale, then you play 4 notes starting from the 2nd note of the scale, then from the 3rd note of the scale, from the 4th note, 5th note, so on and so forth. So a 4-note sequence run through the G major scale would sound like this. So there you have 5 different ways to practice scales. This is something that I see with a lot of my students is they feel like they haven't mastered the linear one yet, so they won't move on to other things. But one of the best things you can do is push yourself and push your boundaries outside of just playing the scale linearly, because when you do all of these things, you are still practicing the scale. You're still drilling that position into your head and the sound into your head. You're just giving yourself more opportunities to explore it and use it to its full potential. It goes without saying that I would also highly recommend you figure out all of these in the other 4 positions of the scale. Just so this video isn't 3 hours long, I decided I'd just focus on that first position there. So if you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. If you wanted to take a guitar lesson with me, I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. There's a link to get in touch with me down in the description there. I'd absolutely love to work with you. If you want to support me in the free educational content that I put out here on YouTube, you can subscribe to my Patreon, which is also available down in the description. All of my patrons get early access to my videos, as well as some exclusive behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, so I'd love to see you over there. If you were looking for a different way to support me, you can purchase my video course all about triads, which is also available down in the description, as well as my ebook that's full of scale and arpeggio diagrams. Last but not least, I've got at least 2 new videos coming out every single week, so I hope I'll see you in the next one, and until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.